My son threw a birthday party with 300 guests for my grandson. When I arrived, the security guard said, "Sorry, ma'am, this party is for close family only." I smiled. I made just one phone call, and every guest was left in shock. "I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has reached." I stood there clutching the small wrapped gift, watching 300 guests stream into the ballroom while a security guard blocked my path like I was some kind of threat. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was being kept out of my own grandson's birthday party. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but this is family only," the guard repeated, his voice professional but firm. His name tag read Marcus, and he avoided my eyes as he spoke. Family only. The word stung deeper than any physical blow could have. I am family. "I'm Cedric's grandmother, for God's sake. I've been in this boy's life since the day he was born 7 years ago. There must be some mistake," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm Bernice Caldwell. Cedric is my grandson." Marcus shifted uncomfortably, glancing at his clipboard. "I'm sorry, but you're not on the approved list." The instructions were very clear about who could attend. Through the glass doors, I could see the elaborate setup. A massive bounce house shaped like a castle, tables draped in royal blue cloth, balloons everywhere. The whole thing probably cost more than most people's cars. My son Damon had clearly spared no expense for his boy's 7th birthday. "Could you please check with my son? Damon Caldwell? He's the father." "I'll need to verify with Mrs. Caldwell," Marcus said, pulling out his radio. Before he could speak into it, I heard the click of heels on marble. Jovie appeared in the doorway, looking every bit the picture-perfect mother in her designer dress and professionally styled hair. She was only 32, but she carried herself with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. "Oh, Bernice!" she exclaimed, her voice dripping with false surprise. "What are you doing here?" The question hit me like a slap. What was I doing here? I was here to celebrate my grandson's birthday, just like I had every year since he was born, just like any grandmother would be. "I'm here for Cedric's party," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I brought him a gift." Jovie's perfectly painted lips curved into what might have been a smile on someone else's face. On hers, it looked predatory. "Oh, sweetie, didn't Damon tell you? We decided to keep it small this year, just immediate family." I looked past her at the crowd inside. There had to be at least 300 people in that ballroom, co-workers, neighbors, people I'd never even seen before, but apparently I wasn't immediate family enough. "Jovie, please," I said, hating how my voice cracked. "I just want to see Cedric, to wish him happy birthday. He's so busy with his friends right now," she said, not moving from the doorway. "Maybe next time we can arrange something smaller. More appropriate. More appropriate." The words echoed in my head as I stood there, holding a gift for a child I wasn't allowed to see. This was my grandson we were talking about, the boy I'd babysat countless times when Jovie had her spa days or shopping trips, the child I'd rocked to sleep during his colicky months while she complained about the noise. "Where's Damon?" I asked, looking around desperately. "I need to speak with my son. He's handling the party," Jovie said smoothly. "You know how these things are. So much to coordinate." Through the glass, I caught a glimpse of Cedric in his little suit, laughing as he ran between the tables. He looked so happy, so alive. My chest tightened with a pain I hadn't felt since my husband died 5 years ago, the pain of being utterly alone. "I'll just leave this for him," I said, extending the gift toward Marcus. It was a remote-controlled helicopter, something Cedric had been asking for. I'd saved up for months to buy it. "That's so thoughtful," Jovie said, but she made no move to take it. "I'll make sure he gets it." The dismissal was clear. I wasn't welcome here. In the space of 5 minutes, I'd been reduced from beloved grandmother to unwanted visitor. The woman who'd helped raise this child was now being treated like a stranger. I turned to leave, my legs feeling like lead. Behind me, I heard Jovie's voice, bright and cheerful as she greeted other guests. "Welcome! Come in, come in! Cedric's going to be so excited to see you." The parking lot felt like a desert as I walked to my car. Other guests passed me, dressed in their party finest, chatting excitedly about the celebration I'd just been banned from. A few nodded politely, but most didn't even notice me. I sat in my car for a long moment, staring at the gift in my lap. 7 years old. Cedric was 7 years old, and I was missing his birthday party because his mother had decided I wasn't family enough. But as I sat there, something shifted inside me. The hurt was still there, raw and burning, but underneath it was something else, something harder. Something that had been building for months as I watched Jovie's subtle manipulations, her constant requests, her way of making me feel like I was never quite good enough. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the number I was looking for. My finger hovered over it for a moment. Once I made this call, there would be no going back. The phone rang twice before a familiar voice answered. First National Bank. This is Rebecca. How can I help you? Rebecca, this is Bernice Caldwell. I need to speak with you about my daughter-in-law's accounts. The party was still going strong when I hung up the phone 20 minutes later. Through the windows, I could see the celebration continuing, all those guests enjoying themselves while I sat alone in my car, but I wasn't powerless. Not anymore. I started the engine and drove away, leaving the gift on the passenger seat. Cedric would get his present eventually, but first, his mother was going to get exactly what she deserved. Driving home from that humiliating encounter, my mind kept drifting back to how it all started. When had I become the enemy in my own family? When had loving my grandson become such a crime? The answer came to me as I pulled into my driveway. It started the day Jovie realized I had money. 8 years ago, when Damon first brought her home, I thought she was lovely. She was young, vibrant, and my son looked happier than I'd seen him since his college days. She was working as a receptionist at a dental office. Nothing glamorous, but she had dreams. Big dreams. I want to give Damon the life he deserves, she'd told me over coffee during one of our early meetings. He works so hard, and I just want to support him. I'd been charmed by her ambition, her dedication to my son. When they got married 6 months later, I was thrilled. Finally, Damon had found someone who would take care of him the way his father and I had. The first request came during their honeymoon. They were in Bali, and Jovie called me crying. Their rental car had broken down, and they needed money for repairs. $500. Not a fortune, but enough to help them enjoy their trip. I'm so embarrassed to ask, she'd sobbed into the phone. But we spent everything on the wedding, and we just want this time to be perfect. I wired the money without hesitation. What grandmother wouldn't want her son to have a perfect honeymoon? Then came the apartment deposit. Then the furniture for their new place. Then Jovie's student loans that were apparently causing her so much stress that she couldn't sleep at night. It's affecting my health, she'd explained, her hand pressed dramatically to her chest. The doctor says stress can cause fertility problems, and we want to give you grandchildren so badly. That one got me. The promise of grandchildren dangled like a carrot in front of a lonely widow. I paid off her student loans, $23,000, without blinking. When Cedric was born, I thought the requests would stop. We had our grandchild. The purpose had been fulfilled. But pregnancy had been expensive, Jovie explained. The medical bills were overwhelming, even with insurance. I hate to ask, she'd said, bouncing baby Cedric on her hip, but we're drowning here. The last thing we want is for money stress to affect our son's environment. Another $12,000. For my grandson's well-being, she said. The pattern was so gradual, so carefully orchestrated, that I didn't see it at first. There was always a reason, always a crisis, always something that threatened the happiness of my son and grandson, and I was always the solution. Cedric's daycare was too expensive. Could I help with that? Just temporarily, until Jovie found a better job. 2 years later, I was still paying $800 a month. Their apartment was too small for a growing family. The mortgage company needed a co-signer with better credit. Could I help them get the house they wanted? It was for Cedric, after all. He needed a yard to play in. I co-signed for a house that cost more than I'd ever dreamed of living in. When they struggled with the payments, I covered the difference. When they needed new furniture for the bigger space, I helped. When the roof needed repairs, when the car broke down, when Jovie's mother got sick and needed money for treatment, I was always there. But it wasn't just the money. It was the way she asked for it. The tears, the desperate phone calls. The way she made me feel like I was the only person in the world who could save my family from disaster. "You're such a blessing," she'd tell me, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know what we'd do without you. Cedric is so lucky to have a grandmother who cares so much." The praise felt good. After years of being alone, of feeling useless in retirement, suddenly I had purpose again. I was needed. I was helping to build a better life for my grandson. But somewhere along the way, the gratitude started to feel hollow. The emergencies became more frequent, more expensive. And Jovie's attitude toward me began to shift. It started with small comments. "You spoil him too much," she'd say when I brought Cedric toys. "We're trying to teach him about earning things." Then came the criticisms about my parenting advice. "Things are different now," she'd explain with a patronizing smile. "We have newer information about child development." Gradually, my babysitting duties were reduced. "We want to establish better routines," Jovie explained. "It's nothing personal." But it felt personal, especially when I'd see social media posts of her going out with friends while Cedric was at expensive daycare, the daycare I was paying for. 6 months ago, I'd started to notice something odd. Jovie's spending had increased dramatically. Designer handbags, expensive clothes, weekly salon appointments. She'd joined an exclusive gym, started taking art classes, bought a luxury car. "Damon's doing so well at work," she'd explained when I commented on her new lifestyle. "We can finally afford some nice things." But I knew what Damon made. I'd helped him negotiate his salary when he got the promotion. The math didn't add up. That's when I started asking questions. Quietly, carefully, because I didn't want to seem like I was prying. But what I found made my blood run cold. The money I'd been sending for Cedric's expenses, the daycare, the clothes, the activities, wasn't going where Jovie said it was. She'd been depositing it into a separate account, one that funded her increasingly luxurious lifestyle. The receipts I found in her purse during my last visit told the story. Spa treatments, shopping sprees, expensive dinners with friends, all paid for with money I'd sent to help with my grandson's needs. I'd been funding Jovie's transformation from a struggling dental receptionist into a woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine. While I ate generic cereal and clipped coupons, she was living like a queen on my dime. The betrayal cut deeper than any physical wound. I'd trusted her with my money, my heart, my relationship with my grandson, and she'd used all of it to build a life that apparently didn't have room for me in it. As I sat in my living room that night, staring at the empty gift box that should have been opened by excited 7-year-old hands, I realized something had fundamentally changed. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was angry. For 8 years, I'd been played like a violin. Every tear, every crisis, every desperate phone call had been carefully calculated to extract maximum sympathy and maximum money from a lonely old woman who just wanted to be needed. I opened my laptop and logged into my bank account. The numbers stared back at me, cold and undeniable. Over the past 8 years, I'd given Jovie and Damon over $80,000, money that had come from my husband's life insurance, from my own retirement savings, from years of careful budgeting and sacrifice. $80,000. And today, I wasn't even allowed to see my grandson. I picked up my phone and dialed the number I'd memorized earlier that day. "Rebecca, it's Bernice Caldwell again. I need to know exactly how much money has been transferred from my account to Jovie Caldwell's personal account over the past year." As Rebecca pulled up the records, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, the cold, sharp edge of righteous anger. Tomorrow, everyone at that party was going to learn exactly who they were really celebrating. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. No more playing the victim. No more accepting scraps of affection from people who saw me as nothing more than a checkbook with legs. I'd spent the night going through every bank statement, every receipt, every record I could find. The evidence was damning. Rebecca from First National had been helpful. More helpful than she probably should have been. But we'd known each other for 15 years. She'd handled my husband's accounts, helped me manage his life insurance payout, guided me through the financial maze of widowhood. "I've never seen anything quite like this," she'd said quietly over the phone. "The pattern is very clear. Every deposit you made for Cedric's expenses was immediately transferred to her personal account. Not a penny went to actual childcare or children's items." The numbers were staggering. In the past year alone, I'd sent $32,000 for various emergencies involving my grandson, daycare payments that never reached the daycare, medical bills that were already covered by insurance, school supplies that cost more than most people's monthly rent. But Rebecca had found something even more interesting. Mrs. Caldwell, I ran a credit check on your daughter-in-law. She's been using your financial history as a reference for some very large purchases. Luxury car loans, credit cards, even a loan for what appears to be cosmetic surgery. My blood had run cold. What do you mean? She listed you as her primary financial support and reference. The lenders approved her based on your assets and payment history. She's essentially been living on credit backed by your reputation. I'd hung up the phone feeling sick. It wasn't just theft, it was identity fraud. She'd been using my financial standing to fund a lifestyle that would have been impossible on her actual income. Now, sitting in my kitchen with my morning coffee, I pulled out my phone and dialed the number I'd been dreading to call. Damon Caldwell speaking. Damon, it's Mom. There was a pause. Then his voice came back warmer, but cautious. Hey, Mom. How are you? I'm calling about yesterday. About the party. Another pause. Look, Mom. I'm sorry about the confusion with the guest list. Jovie was just trying to keep things manageable, you know? 300 people is a lot to coordinate. Confusion. That's what he was calling it. Damon, I wasn't confused. I was deliberately excluded from my grandson's birthday party. Mom, don't be dramatic. It wasn't personal. Then explain to me how your co-workers from 3 states away were on the guest list, but your mother wasn't. Silence. I could almost hear him thinking, probably trying to figure out how to spin this in a way that wouldn't make his wife look bad. Jovie thought it would be better to have a separate celebration with you, something smaller, more intimate. When? When what? When is this smaller, more intimate celebration supposed to happen? More silence. We both knew there was no planned celebration. There never had been. We'll figure something out, he said finally. Maybe next weekend. Damon, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. How much do you think I've given you and Jovie over the past year? Mom, where is this coming from? Just answer the question. I don't know. A few thousand? You helped with some of Cedric's expenses and we're grateful for that. A few thousand. I looked down at the bank statements spread across my kitchen table. Damon, I've given you $32,000 in the past 12 months alone. That's not possible. It's not only possible, it's documented. Every wire transfer, every check, every deposit. $32,000 for daycare bills that were already paid, medical expenses that were covered by insurance, and school supplies that apparently cost more than most people's cars. Mom, I think you're confused about— I'm not confused. The words came out sharper than I intended. I'm not confused. I'm not dramatic, and I'm not imagining things. Your wife has been stealing from me for years. Don't talk about Jovie like that. Like what? Like a thief? Because that's what she is, Damon. She's been using money I sent for Cedric to fund her spa treatments, her shopping sprees, her luxury lifestyle. While I've been eating generic cereal and clipping coupons, she's been living like a queen on my dime. You're being ridiculous. Am I? When was the last time you saw a receipt for Cedric's daycare? When was the last time you actually paid for his clothes or his activities? I'll tell you when. Never. Because I've been paying for all of it, and none of it has been going where you think it has. I heard him take a deep breath. Even if that's true, and I'm not saying it is, you gave that money voluntarily. Nobody forced you. The casual dismissal hit me like a physical blow. You're right. Nobody forced me. I gave it because I love my grandson and I wanted to help. But I didn't give it so your wife could get breast implants and drive a BMW. Mom, you're out of line. No, Damon. I'm finally seeing the line clearly. And your wife crossed it a long time ago. I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From anger. From the liberating rage of someone who'd finally stopped pretending that being abused was the same as being loved. I looked at the clock. The party would still be going on. All those guests, all that celebration, all that money spent on a child whose grandmother wasn't allowed to attend. I picked up my phone and dialed Rebecca's direct line. Rebecca, it's Bernice Caldwell. I need you to freeze all accounts that have any connection to Jovie Caldwell. Every joint account, every credit line, every loan that uses my financial history as collateral. Are you sure about this, Mrs. Caldwell? This is a pretty drastic step. I'm completely sure. And I need you to flag her accounts for suspicious activity. Large cash withdrawals, unusual spending patterns, anything that might indicate financial fraud. I can do that. What about the accounts she shares with your son? I thought about Damon's casual dismissal, his refusal to even consider that his wife might be lying to him. Those two. If he's not part of the solution, he's part of the problem. This is going to cause some immediate issues for them, Rebecca warned. Credit cards will be declined, loan payments will be flagged, automatic withdrawals will be rejected. Good. Maybe it's time they learn to live within their actual means. After I hung up, I sat in the quiet of my kitchen for a long moment. In the span of 24 hours, I'd gone from being the family's secret ATM to cutting off their financial lifeline completely. There would be consequences. There would be angry phone calls, accusations, probably threats. But for the first time in years, I felt like I was in control of my own life. I picked up my phone one more time and dialed a number I'd memorized from the party invitation. Fairmont Ballroom, this is Jessica. Jessica, this is Bernice Caldwell. I believe there's a party going on in your main ballroom right now. A children's birthday party? Yes, ma'am, the Caldwell party. Are you calling about the event? In a way. I'm calling to let you know that the credit cards being used to pay for that party are about to be declined. The accounts have been frozen due to suspected fraud. There was a pause. Ma'am, I'm not sure I understand. You will. Very soon, you're going to get a call from a very panicked woman named Jovie Caldwell. When she tries to pay for the party, her cards won't work. I just wanted to give you a heads up. Should I be concerned about payment for the event? I thought about all the money I'd unknowingly contributed to this extravagant celebration that I wasn't allowed to attend. No, don't worry about payment. Just make sure she understands that there are consequences for stealing from family. As I hung up, I realized I was smiling. Really smiling, for the first time in months. The party was about to get very interesting. I didn't have to wait long. My phone started ringing at 3:47 p.m., right when the party should have been winding down. I let it go to voicemail, then it rang again, and again. By the fifth call, I finally answered. What did you do? Jovie's voice was shrill, panic bleeding through every word. I stopped funding your lies, I said calmly, settling back into my favorite chair. You crazy old woman. Do you have any idea what you've done? The entire party saw my cards get declined. 300 people watched me get humiliated at my own son's birthday party. Interesting. I was humiliated yesterday too, but you didn't seem to care much about that. This is completely different. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. The catering company is threatening to call the police. The event coordinator is holding my jewelry as collateral until we can pay. I had to admire the dramatic flair. Even in crisis, Jovie knew how to play the victim. Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to steal from me. I never stole anything from you. Everything you gave us was voluntary. Was it voluntary when you lied about where the money was going? Was it voluntary when you told me Cedric needed new school clothes while you were getting Botox injections? Silence. Then, in a voice that was trying very hard to sound reasonable, Bernice, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Why don't you come over and we can talk about this like adults? I'm not interested in talking to you, Jovie. I'm interested in getting my money back. Your money? You gave that money to help your grandson. And how much of it actually went to my grandson? How much went to his daycare, his clothes, his activities? I'll tell you how much. 0. Every penny went into your personal account so you could play dress up and pretend to be something you're not. I heard her take a shaky breath. You're going to destroy this family over money? I'm not destroying anything. I'm simply refusing to fund your fantasy life anymore. Damon won't stand for this. He'll never forgive you for what you've done. What I've done? What I've done is discover that my daughter-in-law has been committing fraud for years. What I've done is learn that the woman I trusted with my grandchild's well-being has been stealing from me while keeping me away from him. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Do you know what it's like trying to fit in with Damon's colleagues? Trying to make sure Cedric doesn't look poor compared to his classmates? I did this for the family. You did this for yourself. And you got caught. Another long pause. When she spoke again, her voice was different, colder. You're making a mistake, Bernice. A very big mistake. Is that a threat? It's a warning. You think you can just cut us off and everything will go back to normal? You think Damon will choose you over his wife? You think you'll ever see Cedric again? The words hit their mark, and she knew it. You can't keep me from my grandson forever. Can't I? I've been doing it for months and you didn't even notice. You think yesterday was the first time I've kept you away from him? My blood turned to ice. What are you talking about? Oh, Bernice. Sweet, naive Bernice. You think those canceled playdates were coincidences? You think Cedric just happened to be busy every time you wanted to visit? I've been erasing you from his life slowly, carefully, so you wouldn't notice. And it worked beautifully. You're lying. Am I? When was the last time you actually spent time alone with Cedric? When was the last time he called you? When was the last time he asked about you? I couldn't answer. The truth was too painful to admit. He doesn't even remember you properly anymore, Jovie continued, her voice gaining strength from my silence. To him, you're just the old lady who sends money sometimes. And now that the money's gone, what use are you? Damon won't let you do this. Damon does whatever I tell him to do, just like you did. The difference is, he's not going to wake up one day and realize he's been played. The line went dead. I sat there staring at my phone, her words echoing in my mind like poison. She was right about one thing. I had been played. But she was wrong about something else. I wasn't the same woman who'd been writing checks and accepting crumbs of affection for years. My phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Damon. We need to talk. Tonight, 7 p.m. Our house. Our house. The house I'd co-signed for. The house I'd helped furnish. The house where I was now apparently persona non grata. I typed back, I'll be there. At exactly 7 p.m., I stood on the front porch of the house I'd helped buy, ringing the doorbell like a stranger. Damon answered, his face haggard, his usual confidence nowhere to be seen. Mom, what the hell is going on? Where's Jovie? She's upstairs with Cedric. He's pretty upset about what happened at the party. I followed him into the living room, noting how different everything looked. The furniture was new, expensive. The artwork on the walls cost more than my monthly pension. Even the coffee table books were clearly chosen for show rather than reading. Damon, before we start, I need you to understand something. I didn't do this to hurt you or Cedric. I did it because I was being robbed blind by your wife. Those are some pretty serious accusations. They're not accusations. They're facts. I pulled out a folder I'd prepared. Bank statements, credit reports, receipts I found in Jovie's purse. Every penny I gave you for Cedric's expenses went directly into her personal account. Not $1 went to actual childcare or children's items. Damon took the folder reluctantly, his jaw tightening as he flipped through the pages. Even if this is true, Mom, you can't just freeze our accounts without warning. We have bills to pay, responsibilities. You have responsibilities? What about my responsibility to protect myself from fraud? You're being dramatic. Am I? Your wife just threatened to keep me away from my grandson permanently. She told me she's been manipulating his schedule for months to minimize my contact with him. Does that sound like someone who's grateful for my help? For the first time, Damon looked genuinely uncertain. She wouldn't do that. Wouldn't she? When was the last time I babysat Cedric? When was the last time he came to my house? When was the last time we had any kind of relationship that didn't involve me sending money? Damon was quiet for a long moment, the papers scattered across his lap. The party was important to her. She spent months planning it. With my money she told me was for Cedric's needs. She's a good mother. She's a good actress. There's a difference. Footsteps on the stairs interrupted us. Jovie appeared in the doorway, her earlier panic replaced by cold calculation. She'd changed into something more conservative, her makeup toned down. She looked like a concerned mother and wife, not the desperate woman who'd screamed at me on the phone. "Hello, Bernice," she said softly. "I'm glad you came. I think we need to clear the air. I think we need to clear the accounts," I replied. "Starting with you paying back the money you stole. I didn't steal anything. You gave that money freely. I gave it under false pretenses. That's called fraud." Jovie sat down next to Damon, placing a protective hand on his arm. "Bernice, I understand you're upset, But accusing me of fraud is going too far. Is it? Then explain to me how $32,000 in childcare expenses ended up paying for your spa treatments and shopping sprees. I used some of the money for myself, yes, but that's because I needed to maintain a certain appearance for Damon's career. Image matters in his field. Image matters? I laughed bitterly. You mean the image of a woman who can afford luxury cars and designer clothes on a middle manager's salary? I was trying to help the family move up in the world. You were trying to help yourself. And you used my money to do it. Damon looked between us, clearly struggling with what he was hearing. Jovie, is this true? About the money? It's more complicated than she's making it sound. It's not complicated at all, I said firmly. She lied to you, she lied to me, and she stole from both of us. The only question now is what you're going to do about it. The silence that followed was deafening. I could see the moment when Damon realized that everything I was saying was true, that his perfect wife had been living a lie funded by his mother's retirement savings. How much? He asked quietly. $87,000 over 8 years, I said, including the money she borrowed against my credit and assets without my knowledge. Jovie shot to her feet. You can't prove any of that. I can prove all of it. The bank has records of everything, including the loan applications where you listed me as your primary financial support. For the first time since I'd known her, Jovie looked truly cornered. The mask was slipping, revealing the desperation underneath. Cedric needs stability, she said, her voice rising. He needs a mother who isn't stressed about money, a family that looks successful. I did this for him. You did this for yourself, I said, standing up. And now it's over. As I walked toward the door, I heard Jovie's voice behind me, shrill and desperate. You'll never see him again. I'll make sure of it. I didn't turn around. We'll see about that. I had one more call to make when I got home. This time, it wasn't to the bank. It was to my lawyer. My lawyer, Patricia Hendricks, had been handling family legal matters for 30 years. She'd helped me with my husband's estate, guided me through the complexities of widowhood, and now she was about to help me reclaim my life from a woman who'd been systematically destroying it. This is extensive, Patricia said, reviewing the documents I'd brought to her office. Financial fraud, identity theft, possible elder abuse charges. Your daughter-in-law has been busy. Can we get my money back? We can try, but more importantly, we can make sure she faces consequences for what she's done. This isn't just about money anymore, Bernice. This is about establishing your rights as a grandmother and protecting you from further exploitation. I'd been thinking about Jovie's threats all night. Her casual admission that she'd been keeping me from Cedric for months. Her promise that I'd never see him again. The cruelty of it was breathtaking. She's threatened to cut off my access to my grandson completely. She can't do that without legal cause. Grandparents have rights, especially when there's evidence of parental misconduct. And trust me, financial fraud qualifies as misconduct. Patricia leaned back in her chair, studying me with shrewd eyes. But I have to ask, Bernice, are you prepared for what this is going to do to your relationship with your son? This won't just affect Jovie. It's going to impact Damon, too. I'd been wrestling with that question all night. Damon had chosen to defend his wife even when faced with evidence of her lies. He'd dismissed my concerns, minimized my pain, and treated me like I was the problem. My relationship with Damon is already damaged, I said quietly. Maybe it's time he learned that enabling his wife's behavior has consequences, too. All right, then. Let's start with a formal demand letter. Full restitution of the fraudulent charges, plus interest and legal fees. If she refuses, we file criminal charges. How long will this take? Depends on how smart she is. If she's smart, she'll settle quickly and quietly. If she's not. Patricia smiled grimly. Well, fraud cases tend to get a lot of media attention, especially when they involve grandparents being exploited by their own families. I left Patricia's office feeling more hopeful than I had in months. For the first time in years, I had someone in my corner who understood that what had happened to me wasn't just unfortunate. It was criminal. The letter was delivered to Damon and Jovie's house the next morning. By noon, my phone was ringing. Mom, what the hell is this? Damon's voice was strained, exhausted. It's a demand for restitution. Your wife stole from me and I want my money back. She didn't steal anything. You gave that money willingly. I gave it based on lies. That's fraud, Damon. And if you can't see that, then you're part of the problem. You're going to destroy our family over money? I'm not destroying anything. I'm protecting myself from people who see me as nothing more than a source of funding. That's not fair. Jovie loves you. Jovie loves my bank account. There's a difference. I heard muffled voices in the background. Then Jovie's voice came on the line. Bernice, this is getting out of hand. We need to sit down and work this out like family. We tried that yesterday. You threatened to keep me away from my grandson permanently. That doesn't sound like family to me. I was upset. I said things I didn't mean. You meant every word, just like you meant it when you systematically erased me from Cedric's life while taking my money. I never tried to keep you away from Cedric. Then explain to me why every playdate got canceled, why every visit got postponed, why I haven't spent time alone with my grandson in 6 months. Silence. Then, in a voice that was trying very hard to sound reasonable, Bernice, I think you're remembering things differently than they happened. Am I? Then let me talk to Cedric, right now. Put him on the phone. He's at school. It's Saturday. Another pause. He's at a friend's house. What friend? You don't know him. I'd like to know him. I'd like to know all of Cedric's friends. I'd like to be part of his life the way grandmothers are supposed to be. You are part of his life. When? When am I part of his life? When I'm writing checks? When I'm solving your financial emergencies? When exactly do I get to be a grandmother instead of a bank? You're being unreasonable. I'm being realistic. And here's some more reality for you. You have 72 hours to respond to my lawyer's letter. If you don't, we file criminal charges. You wouldn't dare. Try me. I hung up and sat in the quiet of my house feeling strangely calm. The die was cast. There was no going back now. The next call came from someone I hadn't expected. Damon's older sister, Michelle. She lived in Portland and rarely got involved in family drama, but apparently this was big enough to get her attention. Bernice, what's going on? Damon called me completely hysterical. Something about lawsuits and money? I explained the situation as calmly as I could, walking her through the evidence, the pattern of lies, the systematic exclusion from my grandson's life. I had no idea it was this bad, Michelle said when I finished. I mean, I knew Jovie was high maintenance, but this. Did you know she was keeping me away from Cedric? I wondered why you never mentioned him in our calls anymore. I thought maybe you were just busy. I thought I was being gradually phased out because I wasn't useful anymore. Turns out I was being gradually phased out while still being useful. What do you need from me? The question surprised me. I'm not sure. I guess I just need someone to understand that I'm not the villain here. You're not the villain. You're the victim. And it's about time someone stood up for you. Damon thinks I'm destroying the family. Damon thinks whatever Jovie tells him to think. He always has. I don't want to lose my son. You already have, Bernice. At least this way, you might get your grandson back. That evening, I was making dinner when I heard a car in my driveway. Through the window, I saw Damon's car. He was alone. I opened the door before he could knock. We need to talk, he said without preamble. Come in. He looked around my small living room like he was seeing it for the first time. The modest furniture, the careful decorations, the evidence of a life lived on a fixed income. It was nothing like the house I'd helped him buy, the lifestyle I'd helped him maintain. I found the receipts, he said quietly. What receipts? The ones Jovie tried to hide, the spa treatments, the shopping, the other things. I found them in her car. I sat down slowly. How much? Thousands, tens of thousands, all charged to credit cards I didn't know she had. Credit cards backed by my assets. He nodded miserably. She said she was building our credit rating. She said it was temporary. Nothing about Jovie is temporary. She's been planning this for years. I confronted her about the money, about keeping you away from Cedric. She didn't deny it. What did she say? She said you were too controlling, too involved. She said she was protecting our family from your interference. And you believed her? I wanted to believe her. It was easier than admitting that my wife has been lying to me for years. Damon sat down heavily, his head in his hands. I've been such a fool. Yes, you have, but you're not the only one. She fooled me too. What do I do now? You decide what kind of man you want to be. Do you want to be the kind of man who enables his wife's criminal behavior? Or do you want to be the kind of man who protects his family from predators? She's not a predator. She's confused. She's under pressure. She's a predator, Damon. She targeted a lonely widow and systematically exploited her love for her grandson. She didn't do it out of desperation. She did it because she could. The house, the cars, the lifestyle, it's all built on your money. Yes, it is. What happens now? Now you choose. You can keep pretending that what she did was acceptable, or you can help me make sure it never happens again. If I help you, she'll leave me. She'll take Cedric. If you don't help me, you'll lose both of us anyway. The difference is, if you do the right thing, you might earn back some respect from me, and eventually, from your son. Damon was quiet for a long time. Outside, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across my small yard. I need to think about this, he said finally. You have 72 hours. After that, the lawyers take over. He stood up to leave, then turned back. Mom, I'm sorry. I should have seen what was happening. I should have protected you. Yes, you should have. But you didn't. The question is, what are you going to do about it now? After he left, I sat alone in my living room, surrounded by the evidence of a life I'd built slowly, carefully, on my own terms. Tomorrow, I would either get my family back or lose them forever. But either way, I would never again be anyone's victim. 3 months later, I was sitting in my garden watching my grandson play with the remote-controlled helicopter I'd bought him, the same one I'd brought to his birthday party, the party I'd been banned from attending. Grandma Bernice, look how high it goes, Cedric called out, his face bright with excitement. Be careful not to fly it too close to the trees, I called back, smiling at the pure joy on his face. The path to this moment hadn't been easy. After my conversation with Damon, things had gotten worse before they got better. Jovie had fought the restitution demand with every weapon in her arsenal. Tears, threats, manipulation, and finally, desperate legal maneuvering that only made her look more guilty. She'd tried to paint me as a vindictive old woman who couldn't accept that her son had moved on. She'd claimed I was making up the financial abuse, that I was suffering from memory problems, that I was jealous of her relationship with Damon. But Patricia had been right. The evidence was overwhelming. Bank records don't lie, and credit applications don't fabricate themselves. When faced with the possibility of criminal charges, Jovie had finally agreed to settle. The settlement had been comprehensive, full restitution of the $87,000, plus interest and legal fees, dissolution of all financial ties between us, and most importantly, a legally binding agreement that guaranteed my access to Cedric. But the real victory hadn't been financial. It had been watching Damon finally see his wife for what she truly was. The divorce had been finalized last month. Jovie had fought for custody, but her financial crimes had made her case impossible to win. She'd been granted supervised visitation and ordered to pay child support, a delicious irony, considering she'd never financially supported anyone in her life. She's moved back to her mother's house in Ohio, Damon had told me during one of our weekly dinners. She's working at a call center and living in a studio apartment. Apparently, reality is quite different from the fantasy she created with your money. I'd felt a moment of pity for her, but only a moment. She'd made her choices, and now she was living with the consequences. How's Cedric handling it? Better than I expected. He misses her, but he's also happier, less anxious. It's like he can finally relax. I'd understood what he meant. Children sense tension, even when adults think they're hiding it. Cedric had been living in a house built on lies, funded by stolen money, maintained by manipulation. Now he was living in a smaller house, with fewer luxuries, but with honesty. Grandma, can we make cookies now? Cedric asked, running over to where I sat on the porch swing. Of course, sweetie. What kind do you want to make? Chocolate chip, with extra chips. I laughed, remembering all the times Jovie had criticized my unhealthy treats. All the times she'd claimed I was undermining their parenting with my indulgences. Now I could spoil my grandson properly, the way grandmothers are supposed to. In the kitchen, as we measured flour and sugar, Cedric chatted about school, his friends, his plans for the summer. He was different now, more open, more trusting. The careful reserve he'd developed over the past year was gone. Grandma, can I ask you something? Of course, honey. Why did Mommy go away? I paused, considering my words carefully. Damon and I had agreed to keep the explanations age-appropriate, to protect Cedric from the uglier details of his mother's behavior. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, sweetheart. Your mommy made some mistakes that hurt people, and she has to face the consequences. Did she hurt you? Yes, she did. But that's not your fault, and it doesn't change how much I love you. I'm glad you're here more now. Me too, baby. Me too.